Our story starts with the main character dragging his hammer behind him, leaving slain demons in his way. He's heading toward the stage where the higher demon stands, waiting for him. The demon shakily questions if he's feeling fear. It looks at our protagonist, who's approaching closer and closer, making it wonder why it's afraid of another being when it's the ruler of terror. He steps in front of the demon, shocking it. However, another demon slowly appears behind him, lifting its burning sword to attack. It launches its sword, but he merely tilts his head slightly, swings his hammer backward, and turns around while swinging his hammer forward to strike the demon behind him before it reaches him. The demon slowly shatters into pieces and vanishes. The demon in front of him offers everything he desires, but he responds by throwing his hammer toward it, stunning it as it strikes its head hard. Then he leaps, retrieves his hammer, activates his power, causing his hammer to slowly grow larger. He swings it back to generate a powerful force, causing the panicking demon to ask why the hammer is suddenly growing bigger. He just slams the massive hammer onto the demon's head, crushing it, and the demon is squeezed to death. Calamity, 5 calamities, has been an unavoidable tragedy from ancient times that keeps repeating itself. The time to end the first disaster has come. Demon King, Hespernius Max, even if the whole world turns against him, it doesn't matter because today, the Demon King dies by his hands. Our protagonist faces the Demon King but is shocked to notice something amiss. He wonders why he doesn't feel the power of the Demon King. Then the Demon King's soul humorously exits its body and informs him that he's the owner of the 8 Geras, and he cannot kill him. He asks if the Demon King has chosen to abandon his physical form and become ethereal. The Demon King replies that if he had a physical body, he would have been unable to escape the same fate as his subordinates. He also asks what if he's in a state of intangibility where physical attacks don't work. He clenches his teeth in frustration. The Demon King tells him that even though he's lost his legion as one of the 5 calamities, as long as he, the Demon King, is alive, the prophecy of destruction will continue. He may not be able to destroy him, and the Demon King may not be able to destroy him either, but he can shatter the world he stands upon. No matter how much he despises humanity, he can thrive in a world left with only monsters. In the end, he will achieve nothing. He's furious that the Demon King has outsmarted him. He knows he has 0 magical abilities from minimal training, so the Demon King isn't an opponent he can easily defeat. Being at the pinnacle of the warrior class, he lacks the ability to kill the ethereal demon Wraith. Also, the magic power he despised so much is what he needs right now. A few moments later, lights emanated from the towers, and he noticed that many more appeared in the sky. He understood that the summoning site was about to start calling forth the offerings. While he thought the ingredients were subpar, he also knew he probably wouldn't have a chance to enjoy such food for a while. Since his discharge, he had worked tirelessly, and he had been summoned to this world around 1996, so it had been approximately 25 years. He felt like that place was his hometown now. He suspected that staying in his current form might draw unwanted attention, especially from those irritating sorcerers. He believed he had no other option. Thus, he activated his Deceiver's Curtain, a special concealment skill, with the user as the target. After fully activating it, he knew it was time to begin learning some magic. In the Summoning Palace's White Plaza, a wolf stood guard near an underground waterway. When the wolf saw him, it called him an asshole and demanded to know who he was. Without hesitation, he swiftly appeared in front of the wolf guard and delivered a punch to its chin, causing the wolf to yelp in pain, making him realize it was more like a dog. He strung up the wolf with words expressing his disdain for that world and then breaks a spear blade before walking away, leaving the hanging wolf behind. He placed the spear blade on a rope, even though the stench of blood made it hard to breathe properly. He had expected such conditions in the Summoning Palace. He didn't want to return there after barely escaping before, but he knew it was the only way to discreetly obtain a classification of magic without drawing too much attention. He had to blend in with the other summoners being called to that world and receive a quest. Only then could he choose magic as his subclass, although he would start at level 1. One of the demons, with a mocking laugh, wondered what kind of humans would arrive today. It referred to the sorcerers as trash and urged them to hand over the new human recruits. It contemplated how it should dispatch these repugnant human newcomers. Suddenly, a blade descended and pierced the demon's stomach while it ecstatically proclaimed its happiness. He pulled on the rope, causing the demon to be dragged toward him, and he quickly hoisted the demon up. When the demon reached him, he declared that the fishing had been a success. He seized the demon's feet and demanded the quest log, but the demon insulted him, calling him a deranged human and threatening to tear his limbs off. He tore the demon's leg off while asking if it meant it, causing the demon to scream in pain. He informed the demon that the choice was its own, and he could easily find another homunculus to ask. The demon, filled with fear, quickly agreed and opened its mouth, revealing a blue circle of light, which it claimed to be the quest log. He grabbed it, and the system displayed that he was now holding the quest for the Summoning Plaza. It asked him if he would undertake this quest. He agreed, and the quest list appeared before him. The options were: a romanticist with the condition of being from a location within the summoning plaza, tasked with observing 2 moons, with a reward of +1 palace token. A social person with the condition of being within 10 minutes of an offering summoning, tasked with introducing himself and giving a heartfelt gift to someone around him, with a reward of a black hawk's toenail. An observant individual with the condition of, during a quest within the summoning palace, reading the words on the main gate out loud, with a reward of +1 intuitive power. He opted for the observant individual quest, recognizing that enhancing his intuition was a priority, especially with the curse upon him. The demon asked him if he intended to spare its life because it was in excruciating pain. He replied affirmatively but slammed the demon hard against the wall. He wondered if the demon he captured was a low-ranking one since there were no hidden quests listed, but he decided not to dwell on it, as it should suffice for his purposes. He knew that the offering would be summoned soon, so he needed to wait and observe. Then, he goes inside the light and saw them, making him realize that they had arrived. Many people from Earth had been gathered in this place, but none of them knew what was happening, and some were even children. The demons strolled around, laughing and welcoming the humans to their grand judgment day. They warned the humans to pay attention if they didn't want to die. He leaped down to the ground while the people in the crowd were bewildered, asking if they were on a movie set or if they were dreaming. He was relieved that he had blended in with the crowd, knowing that it was time to activate the quest. The system indicated that the Summoning Plaza quest had been initiated. The demons urged everyone to accept the quest and playfully asked how many they should kill because they were eager for action. One person referred to a demon as Pipsqueak and demanded to know what they were doing, instructing them to bring their boss over. The offended demon stopped its antics and angrily confronted the man. 2 demons grabbed the man's feet, rendering him immobile. Then, one of the demons lunged toward him. The demon instructed everyone to pay attention, shocking the onlookers, and forcibly grabbed the man's mouth, slowly pulling it upward while warning that cocky humans would meet the same fate. The demon forcefully yanked the man's mouth, tearing it apart. People panicked at the gruesome sight, but he discreetly observed, knowing that the homunculus creatures were getting excited. Suddenly, a loud, screaming voice erupted, causing everyone to panic and question if they had heard it. Some realized that the noise emanated from behind an iron gate, while others shouted in frustration, demanding to be allowed to go home. He understood that it was beginning. A system notification popped up in front of him, warning him that he might die, and all the people present were similarly cautioned. He smiled and asked if he was going to die. One of the men in the crowd shared that he had once met someone who had returned from that world, and they explained that it only recognizes and accepts a select few who manage to survive through deadly trials and tribulations. The system appeared in front of everyone, displaying the sword of beginnings with the lowest rank, and instructed them to wield it and choose whether to fight or not. He grabbed the sword while people around him questioned if it was indeed a sword and if they were being asked to fight. A demon insulted them as trashy humans and demanded they make their decision: to fight, flee, or become prey. The people prepared themselves as the gate slowly opened in front of them. An insect with numerous legs emerged and gazed at them. One person recognized it as a mantis and confessed to being terrified, but also relieved that it was just an insect. Suddenly, numerous large mantises emerged from the gate, causing people to scream in fear. One of the mantises swiftly beheaded the confident man. The mantises began attacking and devouring people, leaving many dead on the ground. Those who were still conscious tried to flee, thinking it was a dream. However, when blood started splattering everywhere, a girl hugged our protagonist and begged for his help. A mantis approached him, but he calmly slashed it in half, inadvertently cutting down 2 mantises due to the force of his strike. He contemplated that he had been using a hammer for a while, but a sword wasn't so bad either. However, he understood that if he didn't want to stand out, he needed to hold back a bit more. Meanwhile, a man in a suit had his hand severed by a mantis. He insulted the mantis and asked if it knew who he was, but someone told him to stop trying to act important. Another person stepped on the man's back, attacking the mantis and splitting it in half while proclaiming it to be their 35th or 45th insect kill. The man then stood on the ground with the half mantis, shouted at the suited man to either back off or stay and die, leaving our protagonist, who was simply stabbing mantises with a sword, amazed at the man's prowess. Then the mantis still exploded. The man in front urged the other 2 people to stick together to stay alive, emphasizing that splitting up would lead to death. However, one of the men was grabbed by a mantis and squeezed to death while screaming that he didn't want to die. The man instructed everyone to put their backs to the wall, and many people rushed toward the wall, being chased by mantises. But when he turned to tell them to form a defensive position, he was shocked to see that the people following him had been killed. Frustrated, he expressed his disappointment in his strategy. Our protagonist, who had witnessed everything, expected as much from an office worker. A mantis launched an attack behind him, and he simply stabbed off the mantis's head, explaining to the man that an inexperienced and naive plan like his would never work in that world. Meanwhile, another man trembled in his place as a mantis stared at him. However, the mantis withdrew its hand and left, causing the man to sigh in relief. He observed the man, wondering if he might be one of the chosen ones, then looked back, thinking that some things never changed, and glared at a man and woman, finding them disgusting. The demons encouraged people to savor the moment while they ran and begged for help, expressing their fear of dying. The demon instructed them that if they wanted to live, they should run to a nearby door as fast as they could. The people rushed toward it, but one man tripped and fell to the ground. As he tried to stand up, he saw that the others were panicking to reach the door, thinking they could survive by exiting through it. However, the man noticed someone standing in the way and became confused. He was shocked to see a woman being devoured by a monster, warning everyone not to come there. He shouted to alert everyone to the danger, and a swarm of monsters turned their hungry gaze toward the people, growling and running toward them. This caused the people to flee in the opposite direction. Those who had been running toward the door asked the ones turning back why they were doing so, and they explained the presence of monsters. However, those at the front were unwilling to turn back, knowing it would mean their demise. The ones who saw the new monsters wanted to turn back, causing tension and conflict among the people. The man in the suit from earlier pointed his scalpel at someone and ordered her to move if she didn't want to die. The old lady tremblingly asked the man why he had pursued a career as a doctor, but he abruptly told her to be quiet and questioned if she knew how much money he had spent trying to become the head doctor. This caught the attention of our protagonist, Kim Song-cheol. The doctor angrily shouted at the old woman, asserting that he had to lie because he was different from people like her, who he considered worthless. Unexpectedly, Kim Song-cheol suggested they introduce themselves and began with his own introduction. The doctor released his grip on the old lady, confused by the sudden turn of events, and asked what was happening. Kim Song-cheol, however, turned away from the doctor, insisting that it was the doctor's turn to introduce himself. The doctor retorted, asking if he was trying to start a fight. Kim Song-cheol threw something at the doctor, declaring it as his reward for becoming the head doctor. The doctor caught it and was shocked to find that it was a mantis head. This caused Kim Song-cheol to complete his social person quest with the rank of commoner, earning a black hawk's toenail that possessed exceptional speed and stealth. Furious, the doctor angrily threw the mantis head to the ground and stepped on it. He declared that he was busy and would see him later. In his frustration, the doctor shouted that it was all just a dream without realizing that a mantis was behind him. When the mantis's saliva dripped onto the doctor's face, he finally noticed it, but it was too late. On the other hand, Kim Song-cheol continued to walk through the corpses around him and began to search for something. He noticed words on the floor that read, "Let death be your freedom," and this allowed him to complete an attention seeker quest with the rank of commoner, earning a reward of additional intuitive power. He marveled at how this provided an easy way to raise his intuition and decided to check his status window. His stats were as follows: Strength 999+, Agility 853, Stamina 801, Magic 3, Intuition -9, Magic Resistance 611, Mentality 501, Charm and Luck 18. His main class was a Warrior of Beginnings Myth, and his subclass was Top Class Chef Decay. Kim Song-cheol understood that using magic required a good sense of intuition, but his intuition was currently at -9. To achieve a class in magic, he needed at least an intuition of 10. Kim Song-cheol gazed up at the two moons in the sky for a moment, and in that moment, he completed a romanticist quest with the rank of commoner, earning a reward of +1 palace token. He felt a sense of accomplishment for obtaining the palace token, knowing that if he collected too many, he might draw unwanted attention to himself. Gathering around 10 tokens seemed like a reasonable goal. Despite knowing that out of about 2,500 people from different classifications, only around 100 would survive, he remained determined to obtain a class of magic, regardless of the methods required. The demon raised a red flag and declared that it was over, encouraging everyone to continue doing their best. Meanwhile, Song-cheol mentally addressed Hecernius Max, and the system displayed that the quest had been completed. He understood that using commoner ranked quests would only marginally raise his intuition, so he needed to find hidden quests to make more significant progress. As he pondered his next move, he heard someone laughing nearby, piquing his curiosity about who could be so carefree in such a dire situation. He observed people on the side conversing about their near-death experiences and the doctor who had wielded a scalpel. Song-cheol suspected that these people might be the Watchman's eyes and couldn't help but smile, realizing that he had found his hidden quests. On the other hand, the man asks if it isn't just like hell while looking at the injured people panicking, shouting in pain, begging for help, and shouting to let them out of there. The man approached one of the injured ladies to ask if she was okay, but then the lady was lost in her mind while laughing that everyone was dead and it was a too realistic dream. Then the man heard someone shouting that he was over this, making him let go of the lady who ran away while laughingly telling everyone to die. The man who is still stabbing the dead monsters asks the monsters if they really think he will die. It is the best they can do, and tells them to bring in a stronger one. Suddenly, the demon asked why there are still so many of them and shouted that the population hadn't even been decreased to half, making him extremely disappointed. Then he told everyone that he was a merciful homunculus, so he'd let them rest for a week, and in the meantime, they should get used to that new world. Songcheol knows that the homunculus who was talking is not merciful because there are no food rations or water there, so the only way to survive is to get out of there. If not, people should eat people. Then he realizes something and wonders where those people that he saw before are. Then he peeks to the side and sees them walking away, making him realize that it was the chosen ones and they are on their way somewhere. He knows that the watchman's eyes were a device to pick out people that had potential or connections, and if he follows them, then there is a high chance that he will find a hidden quest. Later, the people who walked away heard a loud noise, making them ask what kind of nonsense it was and if something jumped out again. One of the men asks if it just sounded like a wolf, and the other confusedly replies, right, but Songcheol knows that it is indeed a wolf, but it is 3 times bigger than the people on Earth. Then he notices that there are more than 20 people there, making him wonder if they get shelter from a large guild. Then a man pantingly sees the 25 people and thinks that everyone has gathered. Then he apologizes to them for suddenly taking the lead. Then the man smilingly introduces himself as Yohun and asks them if they can hear the guide's voice. The people reply yes and tell Yohun that it speaks to them sometimes. Songcheol thinks it looks like someone stuck their eyes on a low-level brain, and the magician that did it must be a low rank at most. Yohun tells everyone that he is glad they are okay. Then Yohun sees him leaning on the tree while saying that now that the hardship is over, he hopes to meet them all again, making him glare at Yohun in silence. Then, a demon can be heard in the distance, laughing while holding a lamp and appearing in front of everyone, telling them that they are all gathered there. The people panic, knowing that it is the leader from before and ask if it is a trap, but the demon tells everyone not to be scared and introduces itself as disciplined Captain Homunculus. Then, he told everyone that even if he tore apart and killed troublesome humans, he would reward chosen humans. Songcheol thinks if it was the nominated disciplined captain, a low-ranked magician, he wonders about the higher-ups in the organization structure. The homunculus captain told them to follow him, and if they fell behind, they might be in danger. Yohun suggested that they should follow the homunculus because it was what the voice told them to do. Then, the people began to follow the homunculus, but one of the people angrily spat out and asked who Yohun thinks he is. They proceeded to walk inside the forest while monsters were glaring at them from the side, and a minute later, the captain told them that they had arrived. They arrived at the abandoned God of Order cathedral, and the people followed the captain inside while telling each other that the eye in the center looked like it was moving, to which the others agreed. But the captain told them to stop spouting nonsense and come inside. They followed the captain toward the center of the place, and the man asked what it was while others said that looking at the eye made them feel sick. Songcheol knows that the hexahedron is the emblem of the God of Order cathedral, and the summoning palace maintains full neutrality in the name of the God of Order. He wonders how they are corrupting the cathedral of the God of Order. The captain told everyone to stop squirming around and hurry up and get seated in front of the altar of the God of Order. The people panicked, asking what the God of Order is and what the heck they came there for because that eye gives them goosebumps. But then the box is divided into 4, and in the space, a swarm of eyes appears. Then all of those eyes glared at the people. Suddenly, a light came out of the eyes and scanned the people who were worriedly asking what the heck it was now and told the captain to tell them in advance. The captain told them that they didn't have to be scared because it was just a simple verification step. Songcheol cursed in frustration because he got scanned, and the eyes saw him differently from others, making the eyes focus their vision on him to scan him clearly. But fortunately, he activated his veil of deception with the distortion skill, and his aura started to become normal like other people, and the eyes began to shake uncontrollably. The man behind him was silently looking at him. Then, the God of Order symbol released a powerful light while the system showed everyone that those who serve good and right shall have the will of the God of Order with an effectiveness bonus of +10 in strength, agility, and stamina. Also, there's an area restriction in the summoning palace. The people glowed with excitement, wondering what it was because they were overflowing with strength, and the monsters from before shouldn't be a problem. He looked at his hand, thinking that who would have known that a nominee would receive such benefits from the start, as he thought that strange world is rotten from the beginning. The captain ordered everyone to toss away all the lousy weapons they had and pick up new ones because these were 10 times better. The people grabbed the new swords while shouting that they looked the same as before, but they were much lighter. They excitedly told the monsters that they would capture all of them with these. The captain reminded them that they were all chosen humans, and under sincere guidance, they would be able to pass the test and return to the summoning palace. The people happily looked at their new weapons, but then a small demon called its captain and shouted that he had found more of the chosen humans and brought them there. The captain panicked and asked how when there were undoubtedly already 25 of them there. The captain asked the new arrival what he was, but the man just told the captain not to be too stern and that he hadn't introduced himself yet. The man apologized to everyone for being late and introduced himself as Park Aram. He explained that he came late because he was using the restroom. The captain furiously shouted that it wouldn't do because the god of order had already given his blessing, and the distribution of weapons had just ended. But the small demon told its captain that the leader of the Iron Blood Knightage personally picked that human, leaving the captain shocked, remembering the Iron Blood Knightage. Aram told the captain that he heard it, so it was the end of the introduction. The captain laughingly told everyone that it was the first time they summoned a human to that world. But how dare that deceiver fool the disciplined captain and tell them that he'd commend him. As a reply, he'll rip that person to shreds and kill them. This made the people silent, and Songcheol thought it was really the Iron Blood Knightage. But then someone called him and asked him if he wasn't the rat that sneaked in there. He just silently looked at the man, wondering who that bastard was. The captain furiously told them that there was a human who tricked him among them all, and the man once again asked him if it wasn't him, making the captain glare at the man. The man asked him why he was staring like that because it was scary, and if he was wrong. Then whatever, but judging by the state of his clothes, there were many traces of fighting someone. Then the man asked him if they really had to try that hard to fight. But he just asked the man back if he wasn't an acute critic. Then someone interrupted them, saying that he was in charge of giving good opinions, and Yohun suggested to everyone how about they introduce themselves. Then Yohun told everyone that he was Leonese, making Songcheol realize that, as he thought, Yohun is quite clever, which he didn't like. Then Aram told everyone that he was Dalrance Winterler and that he was on a different level than them, beginners. Then the others introduced themselves. The man asked him how about running now because he couldn't die in vain. But he just told the man that if it was so and if he could stand in front of him. The man teasingly clapped and told him that he was handling it head on. He told the man in his mind that they should see who dies in vain, and he knows that he needs to see what he can get from that summoning slot. Then he used the claws of the secret guardian knight, Black Hawk Claws, and ordered it to grab the watchman's eye from the man, thinking that it was his now. The hawk claws grabbed the man's watchman's eye, and he pulled it onto his hand. He grabbed it, and it started to say that the scenery looked weird, and it asked what the heck happened, making him wonder if it wasn't wrong to hold it in his hand. But he thought that no matter how lousy it was, he wondered how he could get it that easily. Then he asked it what its name was, and it replied that it was not sure because it thinks it forgot it due to earlier exaggerations. Then it remembered its name and told him that its name was Krill Liggle. After getting the name, he threw it, and it squeezed against the wall. The captain angrily asked him where the magician in charge was, and he replied that the magician in charge is Krill Liggle, making the man shocked. The man asked him what he just did, but he just covered his ears. The captain asked the man where the magician in charge was, and the man furiously replied that the bastard in front of him had just said his name. Then the man called the captain worthless idiots and reminded them that he had been saying that the person in front of him was fake. But the captain just told the man that he had found him, and the mini-demon jumped to attack the man. The mini-demon landed on the man's head and attacked him, making the man fall to the ground. But he just smiled at the man who was suffering. The captain told the man that it would be troublesome to kill him too soon and that he'll show what would happen to him when he fools his disciplined captain, while the mini-demon dragged the man with them. The man asked him how he did it, but he just shrugged his shoulders. The next day, the chosen people were busy training, but one of the resting men asked the other men why they were sword training when if they stayed, they'd die from starvation, and the man asked if they had a death wish. On the other hand, he was looking at the training puppet, thinking that other people died without even moving, yet the blessed nominees were getting stronger every day. Then he peeked to his left and saw people training, and peeked to his right and saw people training too. He thought it was good, and he was going to hold back his strength as much as he could. Then he attacked the training puppet lightly. After his attack, the puppet was still intact, making him think it was perfect. Then he turned around to leave, thinking that if he controlled his strength like that. But the puppet exploded into pieces, getting the people's attention, so he immediately ran away. On the other hand, someone was shoutingly telling everyone to hold it up properly. The summoner of the White Square, Chen Jiangsik, told everyone that he wouldn't take in weak individuals because he only took the winners of that fight as his men. So if they wanted to survive there, they should do whatever it took to eliminate their competition. He knew that what Jiangsik was doing was making them fight each other to survive, but then he noticed someone and realized that it was Park Aram. He remembered that Aram said he was the nominee from the Iron Blood Knightage, making him wonder if he should keep his eyes on Aram. One of the people shouted that he was hungry and asked his friend if they should go out of the rampart, but his friend asked him if he was crazy because that world is strange, and they never knew when something would pop out. Also, if they wanted to live another day, they should stay put and eat the breadcrumbs they were given. Suddenly, a lot of food was thrown on the ground, making the people shocked and immediately run toward it to grab some food. One of the men elbowed a woman to get her away, and she crawled to find her glasses while begging the people to spare a little bit with her, not knowing someone had grabbed her glasses. That person cleaned the glasses while telling her that since he was abruptly summoned, it seemed like the leader of the Iron Blood Knightage was his father, even though he didn't know his face, and to receive a favor without responsibility was too burdensome for him. Then he put back the lady's glasses while telling her that thanks to her, he had enough to eat and asked her if she wanted to go get something to eat together. The lady agreed and followed Aram without knowing what Aram's real intention was. Then he silently looked at them walking away. A moment later, in the forest, he walked inside and saw the lady on the ground. But she was eaten in half with food shoved in her mouth, and she was dead in an unimaginable condition. He thought Aram's joke went too far and angrily thought that Aram was a messed up human. Then he remembered that the name in charge of Aram was Dalrance Winterler, and he knew that he needed an event for that person. Then he heard a sound behind him, making him peek back in confusion and saw that in the distance, there was something red on the ground. Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest, the chosen people were resting. Aram looked at his food and said, with disappointment, that he really wanted a home-cooked meal. He expressed his craving for stir-fried pork. The man who overheard him suggested he should just enjoy his meal, as many survivors don't even have the chance to eat it. This made Aram angry. However, Yohun chimed in, acknowledging that it was true that most survivors can't enjoy their food, but today he was also craving pork belly. Aram was relieved to find someone he could relate to, as he had felt disappointed for a moment. Yohun asked if anyone had seen Kim Songcheol today. On the other hand, Songcheol was busy squeezing the red substance on the ground, feeling that it was getting quite hot. He examined the sticky red substance, wondering if it was breeding. He realized it was blood pudding, but it was the first time he had seen so many varieties in one place. The blood pudding moved past the lady's corpse, instantly turning into a skeleton and rushing towards him, likely attracted by the smell of blood. The enormous blood pudding leaped behind him, attempting to consume him, but he just smiled, turned back, and punched it, causing it to explode into pieces, raining down onto the ground. He invited the others to come at him all at once, and the other blood puddings rushed toward him to consume him, but he just punches all of them, causing it to explode into pieces. The other blood puddings stopped in shock, but he just smiled at them. Meanwhile, one of the chosen men noticed something and was shocked to see crawling blood pudding beneath them. He asked his friend what they were, and his friend replied that it seemed like they were going somewhere. The man's friend playfully poked one of the small blood puddings on the ground, laughing, and saying that it couldn't get out of there, so there was nothing to worry about because those creatures were not very intelligent. However, one of the blood puddings jumped toward the man and consumed his arm, causing him to shout in pain. He swung the blood pudding away to save his arm but accidentally landed it on the other man's face. Yohun warned everyone to avoid them since they seemed to catch the smell of blood and rush towards it, just like slimes. He advised them to run away quickly. Songcheol told the man who had been resting to get up if he didn't want to die. The man, in confusion, opened his eyes and was horrified to see a massive swarm of blood pudding rushing towards them. Panicking, he asked what it was, and he quickly ran away with the others. Aram calmly stood up and laughed at those who were fleeing, calling them pathetic. He didn't realize that Songcheol was behind him. Suddenly, Songcheol kicked Aram from behind, sending him tumbling and crashing hard into a large stone. Aram clutched his stomach in pain and angrily shouted, demanding to know who had attacked him and urging them to reveal themselves through the thick smoke. Without delay, Songcheol leaped towards Aram, creating a dense cloud of smoke, and then he delivered a powerful punch to Aram's chin, sending him soaring through the air. Aram paused in midair for a moment, then quickly descended, crashing hard onto the ground. He trembled in pain, unaware that a swarm of blood pudding surrounded him. Aram angrily questioned the blood pudding, asking if they were responsible for his suffering and how they dared to harm him when they were nothing more than insignificant slimes. He hid behind the thick grass, hoping that Aram would succumb to lethargy and perish. The blood pudding crept towards Aram's foot, slowly devouring it, causing Aram to cry out in agony. Then, Aram collapsed, and the blood puddings closed in on him. Suddenly, a magic circle materialized above him, and someone emerged from it, exuding a powerful force that froze the blood puddings on the ground. A woman gracefully descended and approached Aram. Affiliated with the White Square and a mid-ranked magician, Dalrance Winterler couldn't believe she was stuck with the likes of Aram, whom she considered an idiot. She wondered if she was the magician next to the Iron Blood knighthood and speculated that this person must be Dronzer. The blood pudding swiftly lunged towards Dronzer, but she calmly harnessed her magic power, immobilizing the blood pudding around her and attacking them with her Abyssus freezing magic. Her magic gathered the blood pudding in a circle and compressed them, leading to the conclusion that Dronzer Winterler, based on her casting speed and damage, was a mid-ranked magician. Dronzer instructed Aram to rise, and he regained consciousness. He angrily demanded to know why she had arrived so late and how much he had suffered. He even suggested that his father should kick her out. However, she reminded him that he was fortunate it had only caused him pain and handed him a potion to drink. She warned him not to act up because it would put her in a difficult situation if he died. Aram, while drinking the potion, arrogantly asked her why he would die. She simply advised him to increase his stamina through hidden quests, which piqued Songcheol's interest as he eavesdropped. Later, at a higher location, Aram vented his frustration towards Dronzer and questioned how he was supposed to overcome the challenge, even if it was just training. Dronzer informed him that she could hear everything, and Aram explained that he was speaking aloud so she could hear him while running toward them, exclaiming that it was too difficult. She asked him if he was complaining about the difficulty after almost being consumed by a slime. Aram retorted that his mysterious father, whose face he didn't even know, had paired them together to save him. Dronzer assured him that she would assist with everything else but emphasized that he had to face the Vestshire trials on his own. She explained that the quest he received was part of those trials, which even the hero Chill had completed alone. Aram inquired about who Hero Chill was and what happened to him. The captain replied that heroes were known for their strength and that he would definitely see results tomorrow. Unbeknownst to them, Songcheol was hidden nearby, overhearing their conversation and realizing he had stumbled upon something significant. Then he proceeded to go inside the cave. While walking, he noticed an arrow on the ground and wondered if it had come from there. Then he looked around, noticing that it was as if it had a will, and it was the Vestshire magician. Then he remembered something. It said the magician reached his peak and an echo made a special guardhouse. This made him guess that it must be worth looking at. However, he wondered how the hero got the name Book of Disaster. The thing in front of him asked him what dream he wanted. He clicked it, thinking that while he was at it, he should pick the strongest thing. It showed him that he had dared to select Hero Chill, Vestshire's everlasting nightmare. So, he should prepare himself to taste death in endless darkness. Then he entered the quest, wondering if the quest was made to give something to successors. He was glad that there was still faith in humans. Then something floating in midair glared at him, and he smelled blood all around him. He covered his nose, knowing that from the smell of blood, there was a high chance they used a sacrifice. He didn't realize that something was on his head. The thing on his head opened its eyes and began to release something into his brain, making him shocked. Then he slowly collapsed, hearing a peaceful song in his head. He saw himself holding alcohol in his hand while listening to the radio in front of the beach. Then he looked around and saw a pretty and sexy lady near him. He wondered if this wasn't what the quest Endless Darkness meant. Then he sat comfortably, thinking that he never wanted to wake up from this. But then he noticed something, and all the ladies smilingly asked him if he wanted to play with them. He stood up and grabbed something behind his chair. He asked the ladies if they really wanted to play with him. Then he showed his true self, holding his hammer, and told them that it sounded great. This made the ladies' expressions change in shock. He swung his hammer backward, asking them why they looked so shocked, and attacked them with the hammer. He asked if they were disappointed that he was an old man. The monster in his head let go for a second, shocked and in pain. But then it healed its injury quickly and consumed his head once more, its power entering his brain again. He woke up and saw himself tied in chains. He wondered what was going on. Suddenly, Mandy's monsters ran toward him and began to cut his body. Then a huge shadow appeared behind him and red eyes looked at him, calling him a destroyer. The Demon King teasingly told him that he couldn't kill him, making him glare back in anger. He swung his chain forward and wrapped it around the Demon King's head. He lifted his hammer and slammed it into the Demon King. This time, the monster in his head squeezed once more but became smaller and swam away from him. He grabbed the small monster on his head, saying it was a shame. But he had indomitable strength, so mental attacks like that didn't work on him. Suddenly, he felt something behind him. He immediately looked back, knowing the energy he felt was out of the ordinary. The memory fragment Vestshire told him it had killed all of her familiar spirits. But he knew it was not Vestshire herself because it was only a fragment of her memory she had left behind. Even though it was just a fragment, it held that much magical power, which is why it was considered a trial. She told him that only those who overcome 32 pleasures and 27 pains could reap the rewards. He asked her if everything hadn't been cleared already and told her he had finished off everyone in the dream. This made her say he was an interesting human. He asked her why she could laugh when she was just a fragment and realized it seemed like some will was left in her. She told him he had even figured out her identity, which made her raise her expectations. He pulled out his hammer, asking her why her identity would be important important, and shouted he'd get the reward anyway. She released her power, saying she'd love to see him try, and loudly told him to do it. Then a strong magic circle appeared under him, and magical power came out to attack him. He noticed it must be magic that limited movements. Then she released powerful fire and attacked him with it. But he easily freed himself from her first attack and held his hammer tight, loudly saying cheap tricks wouldn't work on him. The fire hit him, but he came out of the thick smoke, launching his hammer toward her to attack. But before he could hit her, she quickly disappeared, so he struck the ground instead. Then she appeared behind him, let loose another big fire spell, and threw it at him. But he peeked back and told her that wouldn't work, so she used her secret technique, Echo, to boost her attack. He teasingly asked her if that was the Echo Weaver and told her it was useful while a swarm of big fireballs, along with powerful Echo, came at him. Then a big and strong explosion could be seen under her, but she didn't see that he had appeared behind her. He slammed his hammer into her, making her crash hard into a big rock and then onto the ground. He got down on the ground, telling her not to be a crybaby because it wasn't enough to kill her, and asked her where Hero Chill was. She told him he was strong and if he followed them, he would appear in front of him, as the prophecy of doom would choose. He lifted his hammer to attack her, but then she said he was the same as them. This made him stop and ask her what she was saying. She replied she could feel through the mare that he had much stronger disappointment and rage toward humans compared to them, making him surprised. Then she asked him what he would do if Hope had vanished like ash, making him attack her angrily while shouting for her to shut her mouth. The ground around her was also destroyed due to his powerful attack. Back in the days that no one can now even imagine, there was a time when humans were brought in large numbers into a strange world. During the period when careless gods ignored them, these undeveloped, barbaric yet noble humans made great sacrifices to solve the disasters in the strange world. At the heart of this were 7 heroes who shined. However, the legend of the 7 heroes had a terrible ending. Upon the land where the army of devils in the strange world had stepped, 7 forgotten beings would rise for the sake of an old promise, bringing with them blood, death, disease, and wars. There was a document that announced their downfall, saying the forgotten heroes would soon return with devastating ruin. But he told Veshira Memory, who was slowly fading, that he would never become corrupt like them all. Then he walked away, storing his hammer back in his inventory. Suddenly, the system appeared in front of him, showing that he had destroyed Veshira's wish. He had earned the status of Destroyer of Dreams and received a reward of 30 palace tokens, plus 10 points in magic strength, intuition, and spell resistance. He also got the rare moonlight magic. He asked if that was it, but then felt fine about it because his intuition had finally moved out of the negative. So maybe he should be happy with that. But then the system appeared again, showing him that the 7 heroes had noted his presence and were currently watching him. He told them it was kind of them, but he didn't need their explanations. Then the system showed him that Veshira was granting him a special reward, the Book of Echo Weaver, which contains Veshira's secret skills for using back-to-back spells of the same type. Excited, he asked if it wasn't some kind of legendary artifact. He tried to open it, but the system told him that before the last day of the Summoning Palace, he should use the book to gain Veshira's vision. Also, the prerequisites were a score of at least 20 in magic strength, intuition, and spell resistance, and he needed 50 palace tokens. He was disappointed that he needed at least 50 tokens and wondered if he should work even harder from now on. Meanwhile, somewhere in the floating building, someone is angrily cursing a man named Jang Hyunseok and asking just where the heck he went. The man paces in a panic, aware that he needs to submit his report by tomorrow. He slams his hand on the table, thinking it might even put his life in danger. He then orders the magic ball to show him the scene right before the signal got cut off. The magic ball tells him the view is often shaky, and an unknown man asks him what his name is again. The man recalls that something felt off at that time and wonders why he was asked his name twice. But then he realizes something, and he laughs at himself, asking what he was even thinking. After all, a watcher's eye can sometimes be destroyed by a bird. Later, inside the palace, Dronzer asks the man if he'd like her to lend him her watchman's eyes. He says he'd be grateful for her generosity, but she questions what if she doesn't want to. She points out that he can't even manage his own and yet he visits her as her junior. She also tells him she doesn't recall having such a terrible junior. He pleads with her to help him just this once, but she angrily yells at him to get out of her sight, making him shrink back in fear and apologize. She tells him she won't report him to higher-ups because he'll get caught by tomorrow anyway. The man then leaves Dronzer's room, leans against the wall, and vents his frustration. He curses Dronzer while shedding hopeless tears. A man walks past him as he wipes his tears away. The man then stops and asks him why a young guy like him is crying so desperately. He inquires if his girlfriend broke up with him, to which he shouts back, telling the man to mind his own business. He wonders how a lowly slave hunter like this man dares to speak to him. But the slave hunter, Christian, teasingly asks him if he's lost his pet rabbit, leaving him shocked. He stood up and walked away, telling Christian that he wasn't in the mood to talk at the moment. but Christian told him it was sad, but not like there was no way left for him, making him surprised. Christian also told him that seeing him struggle reminded him of his younger self. Later, he shockingly asked Christian if he meant he was also a babysitter. Christian replied that he was right because he was once a babysitter too. He was unlucky because who would have expected to be betrayed by their friend? He lit up hearing it and gracefully apologized to Christian for his attitude before. He begged Christian to help him because he needed his assistance urgently and had no time left. Christian gave him a key and told him it was the door key of the summoning square. He assumed he already knew where the slaves came from. He asked Christian if he was asking him to find one by himself, and Christian replied that it was the best way out of all. Later, he went to where the slaves were. A skinny human appeared inside the prison cage, making him cover his nose because the man stinks. Then small demons appeared and searched him while asking if he had some candy. They told him to give them the candy if he had it, but he attacked them, telling them to let go of him. He asked them how dare a bunch of filthy creatures lay a finger on him. He called them names and touched his face, realizing there was blood all over it. Then he furiously told Jang Hyunseok that he was going to find him no matter what. Meanwhile, in the forest, Song Cheol thought he had even more stuff to carry and decided to open his soul storage for now. He put the book inside, and it landed in a pile of gold, weapons, and other things. He knew he could sort his storage out later, but now he wanted to see a Mace of Moonlight. Moonlight was a rare low-rarity magical mace with an effect that shot an energized bolt of moonlight, and returned 70% of the emitted energy as a boomerang. The system noted that it was a mace made from the wood where moonlight shined, so he should be extra careful with it because it's fragile. He wondered if he should keep it with him since the first ranked match begins soon. He noticed that the design looked alright but couldn't believe he still had to get 9 more intuition stats to use a magic class, and he was short on palace tokens as well. But he knew he didn't want to run away from the ranked match, so he decided not to worry about it. Then he returned to the dungeon and saw the demons hastily throwing moldy pieces of bread at the humans. They told them that they were distributing food just for the ranked match tomorrow. Humans rushed and tried their best to grab a piece of bread, and the demon told them to eat a lot and do their best tomorrow. He knew that the ranked match was a competition of life and death that filtered out humans who couldn't survive in the strange world. The people asked confusedly if the ranked match was tomorrow and if it was rescheduled, but he focused on the men at the top who were laughing at the people. Aram told the others that the people down there had gathered like a group of stray dogs just to eat those disgusting pieces of bread. He sat down, remembering that each ranked match resulted in at least hundreds of deaths, and sometimes more than half of the participants died depending on the test's difficulty level. But he knew it was what it was. He looked at Aram and guessed that he'd play along a little more. Then he wonders where the new hidden quest was. Realizing he had no time to waste and needed to progress rapidly to make use of the Book of Echo Weaver, he also had to keep an eye on that idiot Aram. A minute later, Yohun told everyone that they should go and have their meal. The chosen one proceeded to walk away to get their meal, but a man called Songcheol and asked if he didn't mind having a meal with him while holding 2 sandwiches. He swung his hand away and told him that he wasn't hungry. The man told him that he knew he was worried about tomorrow's ranked match, but they needed energy from eating, and it felt a little boring to eat alone. He smiled and replied, "Fine," telling the man that at least he was being honest. The man told him that despite his current appearance, he was a really successful person before getting summoned to that world. He asked him what he used to do because one day, he was driving his car when he was summoned there. The man also mentioned missing ramyeon and asked if he wanted to eat ramyeon as well, but he just kept quiet, wondering what tomorrow's match would look like. He knew it was certain that the match bet would take place as the finale in the ranked match. He guessed the first round of the match would be either fighting against Alamoral or Pacman, but he knew that the difficulty still depended on other factors besides the monster. Then he noticed someone at the gate and saw that it was someone with a red robe, making him wonder if it meant they were a necromancer. The man was walking furiously, swearing that he was going to find Jang Hyunseok at any cost and no matter what. Meanwhile, in the castle, they could hear people chanting unknown words. Inside, people in masks with red robes were casting a spell together on the side of a huge circle with water. The water boiled, and undead monsters emerged from it. Back at the gathering place, the man searched around, determined to find Jang Hyunseok at all costs. He swore that when he found him, Hyunseok was going to pay. However, a fight broke out among the people over a piece of bread, and he accidentally got hit when a woman was pushed. He fell to the ground with the piece of bread beside him. The commotion drew the attention of the people, and they rushed towards the bread. Fortunately, he managed to escape in time to avoid being caught in the chaos. He began to look around and noticed that there were no nominees there, making him wonder where they had all gathered. Then he spotted people at the top and excitedly shouted that he had found them, and they were all gathered there. He noticed Yohun and Sunghai but wondered where Jang Hyunseok was. He started counting them and realized that all of them were present, so he assumed Hyunseok must be with them. However, he looked at Songcheol and wondered what was going on because there were no watchman's eyes on him, and he was concerned that Songcheol might cause trouble. Songcheol noticed the man staring at him and told the man who had offered him food that he was leaving. He walked down the corridor alone, but then someone grabbed him from behind and pointed a sharp knife at his neck, demanding to know who he was. Songcheol looked at the man's hand holding the knife and realized it wasn't Richie. He wondered if he had ever done something wrong to the necromancer. The man angrily warned him to follow him and not do anything stupid. A minute later, in the forest, the man was being punched and his red robe was torn apart. Songcheol was confused, looking at the injured man on the ground. Realizing that he wasn't a necromancer, he wondered what was with the man's outfit. The man begged for mercy and explained that he was just a normal sorcerer who had come to find the summoner. Songcheol asked if they called it a leporide, but the man inquired about Hyunseok. Songcheol replied that Hyunseok was dead. The man tearfully expressed his fear of dying like that and not wanting to die yet. He gave the man something and told him he was right, he shouldn't die yet, and if he helped him, he might live. The man was surprised, looking at the crystals in front of him and hearing the man say he might live if he did well. Later, the man was captured by the guards and he begged them to spare him. The Knightage asked if he had said Krill Liggle, and he replied yes. The Knightage picked up the crystal, telling him that he could see he was sincere and didn't like people who only talked. He instructed the man to get back to work. Confused, the man asked what he meant by get back to work, and the Knightage told him he thought he was a fast thinker. Then, the high-ranking executive of the Iron Blood Knightage, Masingjul, informed him that Jang Hyunseok was alive. The man thought it was just as Songcheol had said, and he remembered Songcheol telling him that if he gave that to them, they would pretend to spare him, but it was all because they would never let him go or forgive him. Later, the man returned to his room and placed the letter on the squirrel's back, instructing it to deliver it to him. The squirrel saluted in agreement and jumped to the ground. A minute later, Songcheol was sitting in the forest and saw the letter. It mentioned the great battle tomorrow with Alamo rule, where the seekers were zombies. The reward cutoff was for 1, 3, 10, and 30 zombies, and special rewards would only be given up to 3rd place. Bonus monsters were described as wearing red hats. Songcheol realized that Alamo rule involved beating numerous evil spirits by combining the summoner's power and included zombies. He wondered if his guess was correct and if he should plan to kill the bonus monsters and go for the special rewards as well. The next day, people gathered in the court and many of them seemed sleepy. The man asked Songcheol if he had heard about it, and Songcheol asked if it was the great battle today. The man confirmed it and told them that the person in charge said not to fall back but to attack first, and they needed to kill at least 30 zombies. He asked if it was really true and realized that the information was accurate. Then the captain told them to wake up because the important great battle was about to begin. Their old friends would be running into the battle soon. The rule was simple, play with the zombies, but they should remember that they'd die if they got bitten, and they would be rewarded for killing zombies. Clean water and food would be provided. Suddenly, the heads of animals emerged from the holes and sprayed a liquid toward them. People shouted that it was suddenly raining, but they soon realized it wasn't water, it was blood. A small demon blew a horn, and the system displayed that the first great battle was beginning with the Alamo rule, featuring zombies. The message instructed them to kill the enemies, and their worth would be proven by their own actions. The gate slowly opened, and the people gripped their swords tightly. Green eyes glared back at them, and a swarm of zombies rushed toward them to attack. One of the zombies growled, and a light appeared behind it, followed by a powerful electric shock that electrocuted and cut the zombie in half. He swung his mace and asked the zombies where the red hat zombie was because they should come and play with him. The zombies rushed toward the people, and he teasingly looked around, asking where the red hat zombies were hiding. Then he noticed Aram holding a spirit wolf cane and thought that giving such a dangerous thing to an inexperienced person meant there were no other choices. On the other hand, Yohun slashed through the zombies and asked the chosen people if they should start now. Sunghai, fearful, told the zombies to go away and not come near her. But then a man cut off a zombie's head and shouted to the others that they should do the same. Aram released the spirit wolf from his cane and excitedly wondered if it was the spirit wolf because it was so amazing. He ordered his wolf to bite all of them, but the spirit wolf appeared behind the man who was fighting the zombie and attacked the man from behind, causing him to fall to the ground. Sunghai angrily shouted at Aram, telling him to attack only the zombies, but Aram just laughed and told his spirit wolf to kill all the people in his way. On the other hand, the wolf was glaring at the man who was trying to stand up, but then the wolf jumped away and was about to attack Sunghai, causing her to cover herself and shout in fear. Fortunately, a powerful magic attack was launched towards the wolf and decapitated it in time. Sunghai, confused, peeked to look at it and saw Songcheol saying that the crazy dog had gone insane. The man asked Songcheol what it was, and he replied that the red Santa in the hoodie had given it to him yesterday. Then he told the man to watch his side, so the man looked at his side and was shocked to see a zombie launching an attack on him. However, the man reacted quickly and slashed the zombie in half just in time. The man was initially confused by his actions, but then cheered happily that he had killed one and shouted that it was so easy. The zombies rushed toward him, but he easily swung his mace at them while counting that he had killed 28 of them, which meant 2 more were left. He killed the zombie in front of him, which was his 29th zombie, and saw a huge zombie attacking people on the side, making him think that it must be the last one. He was glad that he had found the red hat zombie, but then Aram insanely shouted that the red cap zombie was his and that he would sweep out everyone who stopped him. Songcheol grabbed the zombie's head, which was attacking others, and threw it toward Aram while asking him if he thought it would go as he planned. The zombie's head flew toward Aram and hit him on the head, causing Aram to fall to the ground and slowly lose consciousness. Aram's spirit wolf also disappeared, and Songcheol remarked that he should get the bonus monster. But then someone swiftly ran past him, surprising him, and he noticed that she was going for the red hat, and she was quick too. He knew that the cane was too slow, so he grabbed the sword from the start and forcefully threw it at the zombie. The sword flew faster towards the zombie and hit its chest. The lady jumped knowing that he had taken the first attack, so there was only one thing she had to do. She cut off the zombie's head with her sword in one blow. He was impressed by the quick decision the lady made to cut off the bonus monster's head and wondered who she was. The system congratulated both of them for beating the bonus monster, and the result was a shared kill of 50-50. The reward offered was a palace token +3 and a shield of the spirit, and they needed to choose one. He felt disappointed that he had to share the rewards and had planned to take the palace token. However, the lady excused herself to choose first, and he was shocked to see that she picked the palace token, leaving the shield of the spirit for him. She told him that she'd see him again and jumped away. He thought it was strange that she had chosen the token over the item, like he did, which made him believe she might know something about the tokens. As the sun was about to rise, inside the court, the people had completed their quest, and the system announced that the system administrator of the Citation Palace would examine the rewards. He hadn't thought about this variable before. The system showed everyone that the first grade battle had finished, and the white square they were in had killed a total of 852 monsters. Among the 4 squares, they were currently in 4th place, which was the last place. He knew that the white square had always been in 1st place, which was why he had chosen it without much thought. He clicked to see his status, and the window displayed that he had killed 35 monsters, placing him outside the ranking. His reward level was a class, and the default reward included a palace token +2, fresh meat, apples, and a week's worth of food. He knew that the rewards for the grade battle depended on the ranking of the palace, and since it was a relative evaluation, it was acceptable to kill summoners from other palaces. However, he noticed that the reward was only a class, and he understood that at least an S-class reward would keep him from hunger. The system presented him with a choice between Exorcism Holy Water, an Explosion Scroll, and a Sword of Wind Weaver. He wondered which one to choose, but then a man approached him, showing him a bottle and saying that the colors were really interesting. The man asked if he had it too, and he replied no. The man asked him if the person in charge hadn't told him to choose Exorcism Holy Water, but he questioned the man if he had chosen it without considering the alternatives. The man asked what they had to consider when they just needed to do what they were told. He knew that getting a reward just by choosing the defensive item, Exorcism Holy Water, was difficult, so he chose the Explosion Scroll. This decision left the man shocked and confused, but he simply told the man that he didn't really like to do what he was told. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.